Well, hi guys. It's been a while since we've been here. A lot of stuff's going on. You have all the racial problems in America and whatnot. I don't know. I'm 74 years old, so you have a good. And I lived in East Orange, New Jersey, which was next to the second town to become predominantly black in the United States, which was Newark. The first one was Washington, D.C., believe it or not. That had been predominantly black for, I don't know, almost from the Civil War or something like that. It's hard to tell. So there's all these things going on, taking down the Confederate statues and whatnot. I have some problems with the Robert E. Lee thing. I mean, he was actually, Lincoln actually wanted him to command the Union Army, but he decided he wanted to go south. He's a great military commander. I don't think I guess his politics are, a problem. Let's see, what else is going on? You want to take down all the statues and this stuff, and you want to close museums and whatnot. And yet, in Europe, they have Auschwitz. Now, Auschwitz is probably, that's not a nice place, but it's a memorial to things to show people what the world was like back then. I don't get into the fact that glorifying the South is, the generals of the South is such a great idea, but closing museums, why? You want to take history away from us? There's that other group of people who want to close zoos so that children never get to see these animals in person, never get to go to a touch zoo or something like that and touch these animals. Live in a city their whole lives, have no idea what these animals go through, how big they are, how strong they are, how glorious they are. I've seen all this. So, I got my love of Black Panthers and big cats and whatnot from going to a zoo. If I had never gone to a zoo, who knows if I would have liked the panthers and lions and tigers and stuff that I like, and other animals that I've seen in my lifetime, elephants and what have you. I mean, I went to Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus when I was about, I was less than 10 years old, so anywhere between, say, 6 and 10, and we took them back to what they call the menagerie, where you were allowed to walk amongst the animals and whatnot. I didn't like the lions in the small cages. I didn't think that was right, or the other cats. But the elephants, I was able to touch an elephant that was about 10 times big, 20 times bigger than me, who knows, at that age. But it was one of the most gentle creatures I'd ever seen in my life. And was he unhappy? I'm not sure. Back in those days, probably, because things weren't as bad in Africa as they are now, where they hunt them down for their ivory and whatnot, and they're slaughtered. But I don't know. I want zoos around so people can see the animals. I don't want the little cages and stuff like that. I want people like the Bronx Zoo and the San Diego Zoo that have these big areas for these animals to run around in and whatnot, and they take good care of these animals, and they do breeding and whatnot so that they can. They don't have to bring animals out of the wild anymore. To go to a zoo, they can take a captive animal and breed it, and it can go to the zoo someplace else and show everybody what it's like. They take animals that they can tame, which from birth, like cheetahs and whatnot, and leopards and lynxes and whatnot. They take them out so people can see them up close and personal. Foxes, they do all this. I think that's a good idea. Now we want to take the museums away. Well, the museums show dinosaurs and stuff like this. I mean, they show history to the beginning of time, natural history, Museum of Natural History. You close that, I'll have some serious problems with you. I really will. There's just some things getting changed that I don't really like. I read now that Nike's not going to sell Washington Redskin paraphernalia anymore. Now, Redskin can be taken two ways. It's like black or nigger can be taken several different ways. It's usually in a derogatory tone, and it's usually white people that are taking it as a derogatory, using it as in a derogatory tone. When I was young, my mother, Saturday afternoons was movie day with my mom. She would take me to the movies. We would go watch, our favorite movies were cowboy and Indian movies. And my mom would always sit there, and she would always tell me to root for the Indians. And I didn't know why. I had absolutely no idea. You know, I thought it was like you got to root for the underdog sort of thing. You know, they never won. You know, they never won in real. They didn't win a lot in real life either. So it wasn't until I was about, I'm going to say, it was before I went to high school. So about 10 or 12, about 12 or 13 years old, where I was informed that our family had Indian blood in it, from Joseph Smith out in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. He and his family, that side of the family, had Indian blood in it. Now, if you looked at my Uncle Joe, there was no Indian blood in him. I mean, he was Irish and he was white. My Uncle Bob had red skin, had Indian color skin, especially if they went out in the sun. Black hair and red skin. So what they said is we're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 1/5 or 20% American Indian, which means which means nothing except that, you know, I have the right to get casino money if I can prove the tribe and everything, go through the ancestral history, which I think I can based upon an old Bible I have with pictures and stuff in it from my mom and dad, my mother's mother and father and what have you. But, you know, I don't really know for sure. I'm just speculating. But I have a great deal of respect for the Indians, and I don't look at Redskins being a totally derogatory thing. You know, I look at it as being a way to, I can't say honor the Indian, because that would be, you know, using what most people consider a derogatory term. I just think it makes people think, you know. So you don't like that idea that, you know, I think they should keep their name. Well, that's fine. That's you. That's not me. All right. They're not my favorite football team by far. So, but it's just something I'm saying. Now, there's another thing I read just this morning that I didn't even know this existed, to tell you the truth, that there's a black national anthem, and they're going to play it, and the NFL wants to play it at the opening ceremonies of the first game when they come back to play. And I think that's bullshit. I think there's a national anthem. It's been the national anthem since what, 17 something. And I was at the fort down in Maryland, outside of Baltimore there, where it was written, where Francis Scott Key sat in a ship offshore. And I saw the original flag that's there. Well, I don't know if it's the original, but it's the size of the original one. I think that's separating people, and I don't think that's what we want to do. I think if you play a black national anthem and then the national anthem, you're actually admitting to two different entities. That, what are we, two different countries? We're not two different countries. We're one country. Eventually, not in my lifetime, maybe one of my great-grandsons' lifetimes, will probably be one race. That's just the way it is. I mean, that's why if you look at what they call black people, the really truly dark-skinned ones, those are ones that are not that far removed from African descent. And then if you look at the more lighter brown-skinned ones, those were slaves. Those are usually descendants of slaves that were raped or had affairs with, mostly rape with white people back in the day. And their children were raised, what was the term they used, the Mandangos or something like that, I think they used to call them, were children of black and whites. You know, and the Indians, when that happens, they call them half-breeds, because the Indians don't like them. Well, the blacks don't like those, not real fight, the blacks don't care. They call them, I guess they call them American Negroes. I'm not sure how that works out. I forget, you know. I mean, I went through a lot of that racism and stuff when I was in high school, but the only people that I remained friends with after I left high school were, at the time we called them colored people or black people or whatever they wanted to be called. You know, they were my friends. Did they have issues? Of course they did. Their way out of the city was football, basketball, or baseball. You know, that's got them to college. Otherwise, There wasn't enough money for these kids to go to college. Some great athletes, some really good kids I know didn't make it out, and not making it out was a kiss of death for these kids. I mean, they didn't go. Most of them didn't go anywhere. Some of them became gangsters, but that's the same thing with white people. Some of them became cops. Some of them became gangsters back then. But you let me know about how you feel about the national anthem and the Redskin thing, you know, and the closing of museums. That's probably the one thing I don't want, that I really don't want to see happen more than anything else. I can live with the other stuff. I'm not sure. Actually, no, I'm not sure about the Black National Anthem. I think that's separating people. I don't think that's a really, really good idea. We're separating us into two different factions rather than one country, you know. It's like when they, just to characterize something, we have in New Jersey, down near the New Brunswick area, they call that Little New Delhi because it's populated mostly by Indian people. Whether they're here legally or illegally, I really don't know. I don't really care. I've known them all my life. I've been around Asian people all my life, and I don't care one way or other about them. You know, I think that when it comes to taking American jobs, they lead the country in taking American jobs. You know, they come in on the visas and they take your job. So, but anyhow, listen, it's good to be back. I'm tired. I'm getting old. I'm going to try and work something out as soon as I can get some proper lighting in here and get a better microphone or something, or maybe even a better video camera. I'm going to go live on YouTube, and we'll be doing that on a regular basis on a specific day and time, and I will let you know. In the meantime, everybody, have a great weekend.